Welcome to the Juki Junkies matchmaking show. And today I'll be matchmaking you to the right needle for your sewing project. Our handy dandy wheel today will let us pick what topic we'll be matchmaking for. Let's see what we get. On today's matchmaking episode, we're going to be talking about bag making, and this is probably going to be the most popular video in this series. And if you're unaware of this series, this is going to be a really fun video today where I'm matchmaking you to the right needle for your project, depending on what type of materials you're sewing. In this series, we are doing bag making today, but there's going to be quilting and garment making, so make sure you check out for those videos and you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out. But this is probably going to be the most popular topic that we talk about because bag making is so in it. It's so fun, it's so creative. I mean, everything in sewing is creative, but making a bag is just really, really fun, and you can have a lot of creative freedom in it too. So today I'm going to be matchmaking you with a couple different scenarios, a couple different textiles and things like that, and using the Schmetz pocket guidebook that I've been talking about through this series, as well as on lots of other videos on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch a super in-depth video where I basically go through this entire book from beginning to end, we do have a Needles 101 video that I'll link for you down below in the description. The more knowledge you have, the better. So that is a really good video to watch because there's so many more needles than the ones I'm going to be talking about today that just apply to this type of sewing. But check out those other videos in this series, as well as the one that we do a deep dive on this little booklet. Really quick before we start, I just want to let you know who we are in case this is your first video you're watching on our channel. So we're Juki Junkies. We are a family-owned business based in Brandon, Florida, and we are passionate about all Juki, and we also are a Janome dealer as well. So definitely check out Juki Junkies and Janome Junkies for all your sewing needs, and I'll have it linked in the description below for you guys. But there is a beautiful thing that I want to talk about in this video. It's this gorgeous stack of fabric. We are starting to put more and more fabric on the website, so that's really exciting because we have so much beautiful fabric here and so much new stuff coming in. So to make way for the new stuff, we gotta get rid of some of the old stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with it, we just gotta make some space. So this is a really cool listing. It's kind of a mystery bundle, so to speak, but I've coordinated it by colors. So for example, if you are more into the warm kind of colors, pinkies, peaches, purples, you could go for the warm and you'll get 6 half-yard cuts of a surprise, but you know it'll be in that color family. Or if you're more of a cool kind of guy or gal, you can go for the cool bundle with the greens and the blues. Or if you need to stock up on some basics, you can put the basic bundle in your cart. So definitely check these out on jukijunkies.com and subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you're not missing out on any new fun releases like this one. All right, so let's dive into the first needle. And I've kind of started with this needle through our entire series because it's just one of those really good ones to have at all times in case of an emergency, good old reliable. It's called the Universal Needle because its name is Universal. So if you're following along in this little ABC pocket guidebook, if you have one of these, if you don't, it is fantastic. Description, we'll have the link for you. But on page 12, it's going to talk about the Universal Needle. So I just kind of want to explain some of the characteristics and why this is so good to have in your stash. The Schmetz Universal Needle is the most popular all-purpose needle type. The Universal Needle is available in the widest range of sizes, plus in a twin and triple needle option. Characteristics of this needle is it has a slightly rounded point, so it's slightly ballpoint, and it has a regular size eye. It comes in a lot of different sizes, and it's really common to use on wovens and knits, and it's just a great all-purpose needle. So like in case of an emergency, you don't have one of these more specific needles, you know, it's nice to just have something universal like this to get the job done. It's not always the best needle for every project, but like I've prefaced in the other videos, if there was a glass case on the wall and you had to break the glass to get into anything, it would be a pack of these in like a variety pack, so you have a little bit of everything. So universal needles are great. If we're looking at this little bag, actually this bag I have on Juki Junkies. I actually wrote this bag. It's called the Benny bag. It could be a lunch bag. I designed it to be a lunch bag, but honestly, it's just kind of cute to be a purse anyways. But this I made with cotton and some Insulbrite, and honestly when I'm working with materials like this, you could totally use a universal needle. Nothing specialty here. Cotton is a woven, so again, having that slightly ballpoint type of needle is going to be really good to penetrate things like that. This little cute project is mostly made with cotton. The top is made with some cork, but we'll get into cork here in a little bit. But like for this type of project, again, you could have probably used universal from start to finish. This is a very small cork detail, so it would do the job. So think of that. Universal is great for wovens. It's also going to be ideal for like canvas and denim, but I have a needle that I would recommend even better for denim and canvas. So for denim and canvas, it's going to be good to use a denim needle because they're made a little bit differently. So this is a really cute purse that's made out of a cotton canvas. It's actually interfaced with some foam here, so we'll talk about foam as well in today's video. But canvas is a very common thing you can use in jeans too. Here's another cute little example. It just is a very heavy weight. It's a denser type of woven material. So it's much like cotton, but it's just heavier, denser, thicker, a little bit more meaty for the bag. So this bag is just so cute. So let's talk about those jeans and denim needles and what makes them so special. So in the little booklet, page 20, we're going to dive into it. The Schmetz needle is also known as, or the Schmetz jeans needle are also known as a denim needle. That was like a tongue twister. A special blade designed to prevent needle breakage and skip stitches, the jeans needle penetrates thick woven fabrics like denim and quilts. There is also a denim twin needle available as well. So characteristics about this needle is it has that medium ball point to it as well. Again, we need to be able to weave through the fabrics, but it has a optimized blade. It's made to handle that thickness and roughness of those types of materials. So for these types of bags, it's always going to be really nice to have those on hand. Now, as far as what size to work with, it just really depends. Both of these bags are pretty thick. I can feel that they're interfaced pretty heavy. 90-14 would probably be the absolute minimum for these types of bags, all the way up to 116, especially for the top stitching and the more decorative finishes on these bags. Especially here on this bag, we have foam. So with foam, it's kind of nice actually to use a top stitch needle, which I'll get into that as well. It's kind of a tricky fabric where it's not super thick. It's thick, right? But it's very soft and fluffy, so you need to be able to penetrate through that type of material. So we'll talk about top stitch and Microtex here in a second. But for, you know, top stitching, construction, making these straps, that jeans and denim needle would be fantastic. As far as like needles or thread sizes go, for your construction of these types of bags, you're probably going to be working with a polyester or a cotton thread and not super thick, 40 weight, 50 weight. So a 90-14 should be able to do the job for you. But let's say you wanted to play with some more decorative threads, a 30 weight, a Tex 45, or maybe even a Tex 70, depends on what look you're going for. You would definitely want to start getting into those thicker needles, 116 or 110 by 18 if your machine permits it. So always double check your manual to make sure you know the limitations of your machine. So jeans and denim are great for canvas, denim, just a little thicker, heavier purposed cottons. Also, if you were working with a woven material like a cotton, but you were interfacing it a lot, you could also switch to that denim/jean needle for that project too. Next material we're going to talk about is also very popular in bag making. It's going to be cork. Cork is such a fun material to work with. I know it's crazy to think that you can roll out cork, but it's a very soft. It's a very soft type of textile to work with. So it provides beautiful, you know, quality to the bag. It's, you know, if it's high quality, it's going to bend very nicely because it is very soft. It's very porous. So it's not always really hard to work with. I mean, considering some of the other things that you make bags with, like vinyls and sticky vinyls and things, I honestly think cork is probably one of the more easier types of materials to work with. So when you are doing cork, what type of needle should you be using? I would definitely recommend a Microtex needle. So page 30 in our little booklet, the Microtex needle is generically known as a sharp needle. There is a slim acute point that creates perfectly straight stitches for piecing, quilting, and beautiful top stitching on fashion sewing. This is a very versatile type of needle, by the way. I've talked about this needle, I think, through the entirety of this series. Use the Schmetz Microtex when precision is paramount. So as far as characteristics of the needle, it's going to be a slim acute point. It's also called a sharp needle because it is very pointy and it's meant to slice through the fibers. So it's not ideal for working with wovens, but it is ideal with anything synthetic like such. Things that are, once the hole is there, it's there and you need it to cut through it. If you make a hole in cork, there's no buffing it out like a cotton or a denim. So keep that in mind. It has a regular eye. It's not super long or anything like that. It's just a regular eye, but an extra sharp point. So this is ideal for microfibers, cork, batiks, bamboo, cotton, polyester, silk, foils, artificial leather, and coated materials. So Microtex is very, very versatile. It's most ideal for cork just because of its nature. Again, you need it to slice through. So let's talk about sizes. Two perfect examples here. So for this little guy, this is just a little wallet. Nothing too intense going on here. Most of the time this was 1, maybe 2 layers that you're going through. An 80-12 would probably be just perfect for this project. Again, it's not super thick, and this is a very, very soft material. Now, for this bag construction, however, you know, it is interfaced a little bit. We have, you know, some strap details here. We have the straps here. We have some hardware here. I would probably work with a 90-14 through the entirety of this project. Again, it just depends on how many layers you got and how much is going on. And if you're never sure, it's always nice to do a little test sample sew out. So Microtex needles are great for cork, but they're also really, really nice for faux leathers. So also, well, for faux leathers more so than genuine leather. So faux leather is basically just a synthetic fabric that's mainly plastic that looks like leather. Feels like leather, acts like leather for the most part, has that nice pebbly texture to it. And you can use Microtex for these types of projects, but since this tends to be a little bit denser than cork, there is a better option for when working with faux leathers, in my opinion, and that would either be like a leather needle or a Topstitch needle or even a super nonstick needle. But the leather needle is designed more so specifically to handle materials like this because it's a little bit thicker, not as soft as cork. So stick with Microtex when you're not going through lots of layers, but let's talk about how those leather needles are more handy for vinyl and things like that. So for leather materials, page 26 in our little booklet, the Schmetz leather needle has a left twist cutting point to easily penetrate leather. Remember, once the stitch is created, the thread can be removed, but the stitch hole will remain. Much like I mentioned, there's no buffing it out. These types of materials are not forgiving. They're plastic, they're synthetic, they're not woven, there's no fibers there coming together. The hole is there, it's like paper. Can't get rid of it. So, characteristics of this needle. It has a cutting point to it. It's made to cut, to slice through those types of materials. It also has kind of like a twist point to create a smooth hole so that way the thread can actually fill it out better. Also has a regular shaped eye, not much to that characteristic of this needle. It's meant for leather, artificial leather, heavy non-woven synthetics. Do not use on knits or woven fabrics. And if you are trying to figure out what needles to use for wovens and knits, definitely check out our garments video because I do talk about the difference between cutting through fibers versus weaving through fibers. So for bags that are made with faux leather and things like that, even genuine leather, the leather needle is the way to go. It's made with that precise cutting point to create that hole so that stitch is filled out nicely, and size directly correlates to how many layers you got here. It depends on how dense of a faux leather or even a genuine leather you're working with. Also depends on the type of thread. But I would say really for projects like these, a 90-14 would probably be a great starting point. I don't really see a time where you would ever want to work with anything thinner unless you were just working with 2 layers, maybe you're making a key fob or something, an 80-12 would be fine. But really 90-14 is kind of a good minimum starting point. So for something like this, leather is going to be perfect, but a Microtex is also a good solution. But something to keep in mind with Microtex needles is they are a very skinny, sharp type of needle. So if you are going through a lot of layers, it's not the most ideal needle for that because since it's so fine and so sharp, it could break. So you're a little bit more susceptible to needle breakages on projects like that. So keep that in mind. That's why with cork it's nice because it's soft, a little bit of a different material, but once you start getting into those thicker, heavier layers, you know, using a leather needle like this or a Topstitch needle in the case of cork. So let's talk about Topstitch needles because I think these are my favorite needle across the board. So next up, my personal favorite is the good old Topstitch needle. This is on page 38, so let's read about it. The Schmetz Topstitch needle has an elongated eye, which is providing less stress on the thread as it passes through the eye, achieving perfectly straight and even stitches when using a straight stitch needle plate. It's also a very popular choice among machine embroidery. So characteristics of this needle, it is a slightly rounded point, so it does have a more ballpoint kind of shape to it, but it has an elongated eye. And that feature is so incredibly nice because sometimes what we struggle with, like foam, for example. Foam is one of those things that it is a woven. It's not really like a synthetic material. It has fibers in it, right? But it's fluffy. So it has body to it, but it's very soft. It can get crushed. It's, you know, very soft and cushiony to a bag or like a laptop cover. Think of that foam, okay? So with something like that, it's taking up a lot of space and it's going through under a lot of stress on the sewing machine. So you maybe necessarily don't need a huge needle. You don't need a 16 needle because it's making a huge hole into your fabrics and it's getting all crushed down anyways. So a Topstitch needle is a fantastic solution for the person who might be experiencing skipped stitches, and you don't need to work with a needle bigger than 116 or a needle bigger than 90 by 14. That longer eye helps create a larger loop for the bottom. So that loop is being created at the bottom so that the bobbin can come in and actually connect the two threads together. So this is kind of like a cheat. This needle is kind of like a hack. Also something really nice for the person. I know a lot of home sewing machines can't work with the needle larger than 116. So, you know, you can't go up to 110 by 18, but remember that the 116 Topstitch needle, if you're getting skipped stitches, is gonna help. It's gonna create a larger loop, creating more secure stitches, and it's kind of a cheat around it. So I can't tell you how many people I've saved with the Topstitch needle. It doesn't matter if you're working with wovens or if you're working with synthetic materials, or even if you're quilting. It is just a really, really nice needle. I would almost say that's a good emergency needle over the universal, because it's just super, super versatile and just helps create a bigger loop for you so you don't have to size up and make larger holes into your project. The last but not least, so let's actually recap really quickly. So we talked about woven materials, we talked about cotton materials, we talked about cork, we talked about leather and artificial leathers, and now the last but not least, I think this is the most complicated one to talk about, is going to be these fun plasticky vinyls, jelly vinyls, anything that resembles this really hard plastic. So this can be very hard to work with. You might commonly see this, like I know recently with like stadium bags, they require your purses in concerts and stadiums to be clear. A lot of people have been getting creative with these types of things. You can make clear pouches, you can use these for project bags. This is a very tricky thing to work with. I mean, just listen to it. It's just different, you know, it's very hard. It's literally pure plastic, and sometimes it's glittery, sometimes it's thicker, sometimes it's thinner, sometimes it's printed. So what do you use when you're working with something like this? Well, there's a lot of other things that come into this, like using the right foot. I always recommend for anything synthetic, especially something super sticky like this stuff, or even artificial leathers, even real leathers, to use a smooth presser foot. So something that's not metal to help you with that stickiness that comes when you try putting a metal foot on this. It literally just sticks to it. It's super hard for your machine to grab it and feed through it. So I would definitely recommend using a smooth foot. So how can we put like a smooth foot in a needle, right? Because that would be super ideal. Well, Schmetz does have something like that. In our little handy dandy booklet, page 36 talks about our super non-stick needles. The Schmetz Super Non-Stick Needle is a super universal needle with an optimized blade, much like the Denim needle, and it has an extra large eye and a slightly rounded point. There's a little disclaimer here. It says, if stitching on light or white fabrics or threads, test first for excess residue. So definitely follow that little tip here. So as far as the qualities of this needle, you'll notice like in the pack, these needles are kind of dark too. They look like almost like a brown versus like silver because they have a special coating on them. So these are slightly rounded point and they have an anti-adhesive coating to them. So think of like a non-stick pan. That's essentially what the smooth presser foot is. And it just has that non-stick coating to it. So anti-adhesive coating to it, that's what gives it that brown color. An extra large eye, which is great. Remember, kind of grabbing some characteristics from that Topstitch needle to help create a larger loop, right? Because there's definitely going to be resistance with something like this. And there's an optimized blade, much like the jeans needle. So they kind of took all these little qualities and put it together in these really cool super non-stick needles. And these are fantastic. So honestly, I don't think I'd recommend working with anything else other than nonstick needles when you're doing stuff like this. Again, depends. These come in a lot of different thicknesses as well, but as far as sizes go, you're probably not going to be working with a huge amount of this stuff, probably 2 layers at most, or maybe if you're making a bag, there might be a little bit more. So 80-12 or 90-14 would probably be a good place to be, because you're not going to be working with very thick threads, and you don't want that hole to be super large. You want the thread to fill it out and actually have a good stitch quality there, but that large eye will help you, you know, have smooth stitches without having to go up into a bigger size, right? So these are fantastic. This fabric can be very tricky, so if you have any suggestions for anybody who is a new bag maker, definitely give them down below. Share with the community here. It's always nice to comment things like that, because just touching this stuff makes me like think, how do I get this through my machine? So definitely share your tips and tricks if you're working with jelly vinyls or clear vinyls like this one. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and hopefully learned something new through this series. And as I mentioned throughout this video, definitely check out the other clips and videos from this series. We talk a lot about needles, and the more you know, even if you don't sew in that category, it's always nice to know what needles are out there, because the tiniest little thing makes such a big difference. It always sounds so silly when I'm troubleshooting with customers. They're like, could it really be something like that? The answer is yes. In sewing, it could be like the wrong speck of dust is over this one thing and it's causing issues. It's always like the tiniest little thing. It's crazy. It's not you. It's just the elements. So make sure you guys like this video if you enjoyed this topic. Comment down below with your suggestions for any bag makers who are getting into this. There's so many tips and tricks and hacks and things out there. So it's always nice to, again, information is power. So share down below. Make sure you head over to JukiJunkies.com for this little booklet that I talked about today, or if you want to stock up on any of the needles mentioned throughout today's video, and to check out this beautiful fabric bundle on there, and of the Facebook group. Let me talk about that really quick. So Juki Junkies on Facebook, we are a private group, and there's over 30,000 members in there, and we keep it light and happy, and we filter through everything, and that is a great place to learn all things Juki, all things troubleshooting, and just see all the beautiful things people are making with their Jukis. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope to see you soon. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our fun videos, and I will see you soon. Bye.